Somewhere right now, someone who doubted you is living their normal life, eating dinner, scrolling their phone, completely unaware. They have no idea what's coming. They have no idea that the version of you they laughed at, the version they underestimated, the version they wrote off in one sentence and never thought about again, is almost finished building. You didn't tell them. You didn't warn them. You just went quiet. And silence, real silence, is the loudest sound a predator makes right before it moves. Let's rewind. Let's go back to the moment they doubted you. Feel it again. Not to hurt you, to remind you what it did to you. Maybe it was a room full of people. Maybe it was one person who mattered too much. Maybe it was your own reflection at 2 a.m., exhausted, broke, behind, telling you that you were fooling yourself. That moment didn't break you. It marked you. There's a difference between a wound and a brand. A wound heals and fades. A brand stays. It becomes part of your skin. And somewhere in that moment of doubt, theirs or your own something in you got branded with a single word. Prove it. Not to them. Forget them. Prove it to the silence. Prove it to the version of you that almost gave up that night. That's when the real construction started. Not the version people see. Not the highlight reel. The other one. The one built in rooms with no windows. The one built at hours nobody witnesses. The one built through repetition so boring, so unglamorous, that it never once looked like greatness while it was happening. Nobody claps for the version of you being built right now. Nobody claps for 5 a.m. when your body is begging you to stop. Nobody claps for the 10th rejection, the 11th, the 40th. Nobody claps for the silence you keep when you want to explain yourself to people who already made up their mind. But that silence, that unclapped, unwitnessed, unglamorous grind, is exactly what makes the final version undeniable. Here's the part they don't understand. They think doubt is an insult. It's not. Doubt is a deposit. Every time someone doubts you and you don't destroy yourself trying to argue with them, you bank it. You let it sit. You let it compound. And compounding doubt doesn't turn into revenge. It turns into evidence. One day, and you don't know which day. That's the terrifying part. The version of you that's been building in the dark is going to step into the light. And it's not going to announce itself. It's going to just exist, undeniably, uncomfortably obvious. And everyone who doubted you is going to have to recalibrate their entire understanding of who you are in real time. That recalibration, that's the moment they can't take back. That's the moment their doubt becomes their burden, not yours. You ever notice how people who doubted you get quiet when you finally arrive? That's not respect. Not yet. That's confusion. Confusion always comes before respect. Their brain is trying to reconcile the outdated file they had on you with the updated version standing in front of them. And brains hate that. Brains want consistency. So for a moment, just a moment, they freeze. That freeze is yours. You earned that freeze. But let's not skip ahead. Let's stay in the process, because the process is where most people quit. Right before the freeze. Right before the recalibration. Right before the version finishes building. That's exactly when the temptation to stop hits hardest. It makes sense. The last 10% of any transformation feels the heaviest. Not because it's the hardest work. Because it's the closest to the finish line. And closeness creates fear. Fear of actually getting there. Fear of what happens after you get there. Fear that maybe, just maybe, this was supposed to be the story where you almost made it and stopped. That story is common. That story is safe. Everyone understands that story. Nobody's uncomfortable around someone who almost did something. But you're not writing that story. You already know that. If you were writing that story, you wouldn't still be listening to this. You'd have stopped a long time ago. The people who doubted you are betting on the common story. They're betting on comfortable mediocrity because it matches their expectations of you. It's not personal. It's just easier for them to believe you'll stay who you were than to imagine you becoming someone they don't recognize. So here's the uncomfortable truth. Your growth is inconvenient for them. Your transformation requires them to admit they were wrong. And most people would rather you fail quietly than force them into that admission. That's not cruelty. That's human nature protecting its own ego. But it also means something important. Their doubt was never really about you. It was about their own limitations projected onto your future. They doubted you because doubting themselves felt too dangerous, so they redirected it outward. Onto you. Because you were close. Because you were visible. Because your ambition made their stagnation uncomfortable to sit with. You were never the problem. You were the mirror. And mirrors get resented long before they get respected. Let that sink in for a second. Let it settle into the part of you that still replays their words at night. The version of you they doubted was never really about your capability. It was about their comfort. And comfort, real comfort, cannot survive next to ambition. So they doubted the ambition to protect the comfort. Now flip that. Every time you kept building anyway, every session, every hour, every rep, every page, every quiet decision to not explain yourself, you were dismantling their comfort one brick at a time, whether they knew it or not. That's the part that should give you chills. You've been quietly demolishing something this whole time. Not them. Their certainty about you. Certainty is fragile. It only survives on repetition and confirmation. The moment you break the pattern, the moment you show up different, certainty collapses. And when someone's certainty about you collapses, they don't feel confused for a second and move on. They feel it for weeks, sometimes longer. Sometimes they never fully recover from realizing they misjudged you. That's not you being petty. That's just physics. Every action creates a reaction. You built in silence. Their reaction will be loud, internal, and long overdue. But none of that matters if you stop now. None of that recalibration happens if the construction halts before completion. So let's talk about what's actually left. Because if you're honest with yourself, and this is a video for people who are honest with themselves, you already know you're close. Not finished. Close. There's a difference. Close means the frame is up. Close means the structure holds weight. Close means people are starting to notice something's different, even if they can't name it yet. Close is dangerous. Close is where people relax. Don't relax. The gap between close and finished is where most transformations die. Not from failure, from premature celebration, from treating 80% like 100, from assuming the hardest part is behind you when actually the hardest part is staying disciplined once the pressure that forced discipline in the first place starts to fade. Early on, pain forces you to grow. Desperation forces you to show up, but desperation fades. And when it fades, you need something stronger to replace it. You need identity, not motivation. Identity. Motivation is temporary fuel. It burns fast and leaves you empty. Identity is structural. It's the belief, earned, not given, that this is simply who you are now. Not who you're trying to become, who you are. The moment discipline stops being a decision and becomes an identity, you become unstoppable. Not because you never feel resistance. You will. Every single day. But because resistance no longer gets a vote. It doesn't get to negotiate with who you've already decided you are. That's the finishing touch. That's the last coat on the version they doubted. Not more effort. More identity. So here's what happens next. If you let it. You keep going another day nobody's watching. Another day where the results aren't visible yet, but the foundation gets 1 degree stronger. You stop needing them to notice. You stop needing an audience for your discipline. You do it because stopping now would mean betraying the version of you that's almost finished. And that version has already survived too much to be abandoned this close to completion. And one day, you won't schedule it. You won't announce it. The finished version simply walks into a room. Doesn't say a word, doesn't need to explain the transformation. The evidence speaks before you do. And the people who doubted you, they'll feel that freeze, that recalibration, that quiet, uncomfortable moment where their old file on you completely fails to load. You won't need revenge. You won't need an apology. You won't need them to say they were wrong. Their silence will say it for them. And you, the finished version, the one built through mornings nobody saw and rejections nobody clapped for and doubt nobody validated. You'll just keep moving. Because that's what finished versions do. They don't celebrate the doubt anymore. They don't even remember to. They just keep building the next version, quietly, in a room with no windows, where nobody's watching, yet.